So we will call, now that it's 4:30, we'll call this meeting of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee to order. Looking at our roll call, we are just looks like we're missing Larry Bjork. Supervisor Bjork is in Texas, perhaps. Is that what you said, Michelle, or?
In the Dells at the Wisconsin State.
Oh, in the
Affairs
Dells. Okay.
Association.
I thought you said Dallas earlier. So, all right, that's a much different thing. So, and Supervisor Vogel is attending remotely from her fine bookstore. So, next, first order of business is approval of minutes from last month's meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
And both of you, don't forget to use your mics. Any comment on them changes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved. Any public comment? See anybody here and nothing came in as far as, okay. No contentious public comments, so that's good. So let's move on to the staff report and move into our extension section. And we'll hear from Kristen.
All right, thank you. So what I'd like to do first is I'd like to introduce our new 4-H educator. He's been here a whole week and 2 days. So Zach Rosemerick, did I say it right? Rosemerick. All right. So Zach, I'm going to let him just do a brief introduction of himself and his background to the committee. And then during staff updates, he can talk, or educator updates, he can talk a little bit about his programming. So, and Zach, you press this one right here.
All right, there we go. Hi, I'm Zach. See, brief introduction. So I grew up outside of Green Bay, Shawano County. I was very active in 4-H there. When I went to college for the first time, I like to say I went for conservation and outdoor education. So I did a lot of like environmental themed jobs with that. One of which was working for the National Lakeshore up at the Apostle Islands. Went back, got my teaching degree, and I've been teaching in the area for the last 8.5 years before this. Is that brief enough?
That will work. So any questions for Zach and his background? And then I do have one other update, or actually a conversation that I'd like to have with you all.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you to the committee members who helped bring Zach on board through the process. So I think, well, I know we got a good one. So the other thing I'd like to bring up with the committee and just have a bit of a conversation, and Chris, this is going to be a little redundant because I'm talking to you about this tomorrow. So Extension has gone into a strategic planning process phase, and it's been, I think it started in, let's see, May of 2022. And we formed a team, a statewide team, and that team has been working to internally to talk about, you know, the direction of Extension, what's working, what's not, and engaging with staff, engaging with people across or internally across the state. So now we're at the point of working with our partners to gather your input of Extension and the partnership we have. We value this partnership, and I wanted to kind of do just a brief conversation. There's some questions to kind of gather your insight about extensions. So if you don't mind having that discussion, it can be brief, but I have some questions and we can have that in more of a conversation format, but I will be taking notes on your responses. So as we move forward, the first question is really kind of fun, I think. So, and I'm preempting Chris, you have all night to think about this one. But what is one word or image that comes to mind when you think about your partnership with Extension? And I'll take several comments from the committee. And I'm sad Larry's not here because I would really like to hear what he has to
Yes.
say.
You would get an earful, I'm sure.
I think I would.
It wouldn't be one word
It
though.
would not be one word. No.
That's a great point.
Larry's sitting there right now going, what people are talking about
No.
me. I think the first thing, one word be community leaps to mind.
Anybody else?
Yeah, similarly, I was thinking warm and welcoming.
Gathering.
Anne, did you have any?
Educational or informative.
Those are great. Thank you for that. And it also helps me understand where you're all at as I'm moving into this area, just this area as of yesterday. So I'm really happy about that. Second question is, what do you value about your partnership with Extension? So when you think about the programming, or you think about the staff, or you think about Extension as a whole, what are some of the things that you value?
I value the depth of knowledge.
I think I'd say I value how it lifts people up in the community.
I'd say building connections.
I would say very supportive and service oriented.
Thank you. All right, are there any thoughts that come to mind about how we together can improve or strengthen the relationship that we have, or our partnership that we have together?
I think this is like an ongoing thing, and it's difficult to solve, but I think having educators split into multiple communities is not effective, especially when Addison's position used to be split between 4 communities. I don't think that it was almost, there's just no way to get things done. 3 is tough enough. And I know that it's because of funding from the state that the whole thing got changed the way that it did. But if there's ways to do a little less, either splitting of time or a way to have, if there is a split, to make somebody have like a home county and they do a portion or more of their work that way. I don't know what the answer is, but I especially noticed it, or I felt that way with Addison's position when it was a 4-way split. Now, I think you're the only 3-way split now, right?
What was the 4th county? I don't know what that model was. Oh, the horticulture educator. Yeah, and that was Polk County, which was a ways.
Right, but Addison's predecessor, I think that was also a 4-county split, if I recall. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great.
Either
That's-
way,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep, understood. Mhm. Thank you. Anybody else? To improve or strengthen our partnership?
Use your mic.
Microphone.
You're doing a strategic plan, but I think, clarity about the strategy and sort of clarity about our role in helping to develop and maintain it.
The committee's role?
Yeah. Mhm.
Mhm. Anything else, Anne, or? No?
You lost a
Oh, we
hand.
lost Anne. Okay,
Somebody came in the store.
somebody. So this one, I think goes right along with what you were saying, Supervisor Dunn. If Extension had the capacity and resources to do so, what accomplishments would you like to see over the next 5, 10, or 15 years?
Well, yeah, if Extension had the resources, I'd like to see less division of educators between multiple counties. I think you could conceivably be split between a couple of counties. I think that's manageable when it gets to 3, especially when it gets to 4. I think there's such a division of time and resources. It's a more of a challenge.
Any other thoughts on if money was not an issue, what would you like to see us do more?
So I think you do this in your work, but it seems like to me like there is a role in our communities for more organizing. So I mean that's part of what you do, but if you had more time and resources, I wish it could be a more deliberate part of what you do, because we need people out in the community helping to make sense of things for people and bring people together to solve problems.
Are there specific problems or issues that you would like to see if you had a priority list of what you would like people to gather about?
Well, I think all the things that we're doing are good. So I don't know that I necessarily want to change that. Just maybe having the approach be not as strategic as possible and as collaborative as possible. And I think part of that is it still feels like, and I think maybe this is inevitable, that for our committee we're and this is true, I guess, in just about all the departments, because everything is so kind of many things are sort of laid out for us, but if we could find a way to have a strategy that's measurable and realistically achievable, and then we actually would talk about how we're doing and what we could change so that it's a real collaborative process. I think we do a lot of good work, but I have a hard time sometimes sort of saying, well, how's all that up to changing the world around us, and how do we know if we are? How do you know if you are when you do your work? I mean, at times it feels like, it's good to know what Extension is going through a strategic planning process, but I think this is the third one that I've heard about over my years on the board, and some of them have been more extensive than this. They've had a lot of outreach, but it just, I don't know, seems like more engagement somehow.
If I may, just kind of to build off on those ideas, like more outreach about issues on sustainability. Just awareness of the importance of that. I think a lot of people just don't understand that, and the role that Extension and county government can play in that. So, this isn't an Extension thing, but one thing that I've been really interested in lately is salt pollution, right? Pollution of, and this isn't you guys, but yeah, there's just not awareness of consequences. People have a huge snowbank and they're like, oh, just dump tons of salt on it, and there's no just no awareness of that. And so I don't want to harp on the salt issue, but just, awareness about sustainability issues would be nice.
Great. That's great. Stan. Very good. Thank you. And I have one last question, and it's kind of a 3-part, of course. So potentially 3 questions. So Extension works alongside communities to access university resources that can be applied to solve problems and improve the quality of life for all residents of Wisconsin. In order to do this effectively, Extension needs to diversify funding. So we need to expand our reach to underserved and new audiences and work closely with our partners. So what actions should Extension take in order to diversify funding, expand our audiences, and leverage our partnerships?
What do you mean by diversify funding?
So we have different pots of money, and because of those pots shrinking, we need to figure out how to bring in more funding.
And what was the rest of the three-part question?
So that was what challenges might we face, and how through our partnerships can we overcome these challenges and accomplish mutual goals? So what actions should Extension take in order to diversify our funding, expand our audiences, and leverage our partnerships?
Well, I think part of it's difficult because it's kind of what, the county goes through, because we're up against the 8 ball when it comes to funding, especially from state funding sources. So a lot of the challenges that you would face in funding are some of the same things that we do. And I mean, and the way to diversify is probably all the same things that you guys would think about, which is what grant opportunities and things like that are available beyond the traditional funding methods, I guess. I mean, I don't know if there's opportunity to partner with private sector business on certain things where they may have an interest, whether it's like a for-profit business or a large nonprofit like hospitals or health organizations like Mayo Clinic or things like that might have opportunities that maybe are a little outside the box as far as funding for extension that maybe people haven't thought about. That type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I'll be a broken record. I think that what would be needed to expand funding and reach outreach would be, again, I think, to really be thoughtful about developing a strategic plan that addresses some major concerns that are out there, and not in a scattershot way, but in a this is the way Extension is going to use our resources to deal with this major problem, and this is how we're going to partner with people. This is how we're going to measure our effectiveness. And I think that, well, if you were writing a proposal to a foundation, they would ask for that, and I think that that's what legislators will ask for if we want to go for more money, which we should, I think. But it would be good, for example, if we had a proposal on the table for how Extension could use part of this budget surplus that's out there to do a specific important project that crossed boundaries inside of Extension and inside of our communities. It'd be nice to get to that point, I think.
Anything else? Have anything? Okay, very good. Well, thank you for that. If anything comes up, just give me a call or shoot me an email, or if you want to discuss it further, I'd be happy to do that.
Are you going to at some point in time share the
Yes.
before it's completed, or only after it's completed?
So the responses across the state that, so we're engaging with audiences like this across the state. So administrators, county board members, and other strategic partners. So that all of that data will be aggregated and that'll be shared out at some point when the process is complete. We're about a month behind. They wanted these all done by December 31st, and a lot of us AEDs said, yeah, that's not going to happen. So they're a little bit behind on that, but we're going to develop a summary report of the findings, and then I can share that out with you all when that happens. So the timeline, I believe we are looking at the finish at the end of 2023 with the strategic plan, and we'll share that out as well. So yeah, so thank you for that. Just a few other updates. As I'm now transitioning to one area, I'm really excited about that, to just really be able to concentrate on these 3 counties. I'll be likely reaching out to you all in the next 2-3 months to meet with you, just to learn a little bit more about you, have you learn a little bit more about me, have questions that maybe we don't bring up in these meetings, or in, plan strategically. Also looking forward to engaging with you all on the needs that you see, the program areas. So what are some, I really like that engagement to your, to the point of, how does this committee communicate with Extension? And you should be helping the educators with some of the priorities that they're setting for the year in terms of what they'll accomplish or what they'll work on. So we'll have that engagement moving forward. And I'd also like I'll be reaching out to all of the department heads and departments in the county to have a conversation with each of them, get to know them a little bit more, how we can maybe work more strategically with departments, and sharing that with educators and inviting educators to those meetings when appropriate as well. So those are some of my plans moving forward, and then meeting with some strategic county board members who might have questions, concerns over some issues that might arise. I'm not seeing or hearing a lot of that in Dunn County, so if you hear them, please let me know. It's more Eau Claire for whatever reason. That seems to be my problem county at the moment, but that's all fair issues. And from what, and Zach and I will find out pretty soon what the fair looks like here, and what our role and responsibilities are there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at moving forward, but I do welcome you to reach out at any time when you have questions, concerns, thoughts on how Extension can engage more in the community, or things that you would like to see happen. So that's my kind of my thoughts moving forward. We do have the position posted for Michelle's position. So that position, you're on the screen too, Michelle. That position has turned, so we have that position posted, and that closes on the 19th. From what I can tell, we have 2 applicants. I'm hoping that we will get more. If we don't, I'll likely extend that. I want to extend an invitation to the committee to join in those final interviews. So if you're interested, just reach out, and I'll try to coordinate a time when it'll work for you as well as for the team in terms of those final interviews. So we'd like to get your input on those as well. I think that's it for updates. Michelle has started her other job, so boo, but she has, so we do have her on overload where she's helping us out until we transition to that new position. So any questions for me? Mine? Me? Oh, Michelle.
Here, I'm still in the same wing here. I just moved into an office.
And you have a different number,
I have a different phone number now, yes.
and you can't get to her through the extension.
Auto attendant.
No. I learned that today.
She is now a state employee, and what's really neat about what Dunn County did is years ago when Jason and I were when we were transitioning out of the old model into the new model, this committee really wanted Dunn County to be a hub for regional staff. And it really has proven to be that way. And that does bring a lot of value added. Having Michelle in the office, even though she's a state worker, she still can assist and will likely assist in some of the talents that she has brought forward, like the editing and some of the things that she's also doing in that position. But then also we have that presence. Katie Wantock will hotel out of this office. She has a remote location, but she was in yesterday. So, we still have those connections to the state resources that are kind of hard to get a hold of when they're in other offices. So it's really proven true to have that hub, if you will, here. So thank you for that.
Excellent. Do you have a financial report to share with us or?
Oh, could I ask, Chair Zons, could I ask a question? Or
Yes.
could I make a comment?
Mhm.
It's just a comment, if you're going to include an invitation to the committee for the interviews, you'll need to publicly notice it then, because you'll have potentially a quorum.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Chris. So how I usually handle that is I will only take 2 committee members unless because a lot of times, especially in the final interviews, it's not open to the public. And so I usually work with committees to say, let's bring 2 forward or not a quorum.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to post it and invite the public in. So thank you for that, because I forgot about that in this situation. So
Yeah, I think the 2 that I sat in on, and were only 2 of us
yeah.
or 2 supervisors that were actually in on those interviews. So.
Yep. So, yeah. So I'll take, so I know Supervisor Zahn and Bajork were in the last one. So if anybody else would like to join or, so if I get more than 2, then I'll reach out to the 3 and we'll see how that works out. So, but thank you for bringing that up. Okay, that concludes my report.
I will do the financial report. So on the back of the packet, there wasn't, wrapping up the end of the year. There's not a big change from last month. The one thing I will mention, as my last day was December 30th, that actually ended up rolling my vacation and sick time payout. It ended up hitting the 2023 budget year, even though my last day was 2022. So we will be bringing forward a carry forward request because we did have funds left over from the educator vacancies. So if you are agreeable, we will request a carry forward enough to cover my vacation and sick time payouts so that it's not impacting our 23 budget. Any questions on the financials?
And that will happen at the next committee meeting,
Next
Michelle,
meeting.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have, I believe, an action item, but I'll work with Beata to figure that out.
Sounds good to me. Any questions? Nope. Okay. We will move on. We have some quick extension educator updates before we get to our presentation. So I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I've been here for 6 days. I feel like I've been getting a lot done in addition to all my training and onboarding and stuff like that. 2 4-H activities that I'm working on right now with some of the other counties. We have the Tri-County Performing Arts Festival coming up next month. That's actually gonna be in Elk Mound this year, so that'll be nice. And then we're already getting ready for camp, which seems early, but it's gonna come quick. So working on getting camp council applications in and things like that. Yeah, I think that's enough for 6 days.
All right, I guess I'm up next. So my announcement is that we did hire a new nutrition educator, Hillary Roth. She started yesterday, so she'll join us next time I have a FoodWise, my time for the FoodWise share out. And Hillary is, I think, a great fit. She has some background as a nurse. She then raised her young children, and then she joined the Community Foundation of Chippewa for a short LT position. She is a health coach. She is a community member, a school board member, and all of that tied together just, I think, screams FoodWise educator, extension educator. But so we're really happy. She's based out of Chippewa, but she will then help to do Dunn events as they come up. I'm doing end of the year reporting. You'll see that in our annual report. We have the Winter Fun and Dunn initiative that my work at the Chronic Disease Prevention team has put together and collaborated with many community partners. So the link is in, I think, the November newsletter or highlights, but it did launch in December and it's ongoing. We have 3 winners. We pick weekly winners for uploading photos of them enjoying the great outdoors. And Join Jael, in December, they had the Building Bridges, which is our Hmong after-school group, which impacted us here in Dunn because they joined Dunn and Eau Claire teens together. And they have a lot of first grade Head Starts going on. And talking about funding, we're working on market match. So every year, again, I have to think about, okay, how are we going to get this funding? First year is Community Foundation. Last year, the second year was Marshall Clinic and Mayo Health Systems. And now we got to really search, okay, how are we going to get $6,000-7,000 to cover that match? So we're in the process of thinking through who we can ask in the community to help us.
Do you ever go back to the same funder and ask them to just keep?
The Community Foundation is kind of a startup, right?
Sure.
So we won't go there, I don't believe. The Mayo is a community outreach grant. They have their Mayo Home Health Grant, which is a little bit different. So that might be an opportunity. I don't think I'd get the same one again, but now we're probably thinking more broadly I know we asked like Rotary and we were denied, but we'll ask more community insurance companies. Bremer and, banks and go that route.
Electric Co-op has a grant program.
Like Co-op, XL Energy helps us in Eau Claire. I bet they would probably help us out here in Dunn. So that's our next step, is to think more broadly in the community who would like to help support this cause. Yeah. I think that's it for me. Any questions, please, Phil?
All right, I'm Luisa Gerasimo, the Human Services that just popped out of my mouth. Human Development and Relationships Educator for Dunn County, and I'll be very short. I'm working on learning to be a facilitator for Raising a Thinking Child, which is an evidence-based program to help parents develop a better way to parent, and that's for 4-year-old to 8-year-old children for their parents. I'm working on Youth Forward Wisconsin, and I'm taking the Dunn County Community Development team from the foundation to Green Bay, where we are going to listen to people with similar sized counties who have started their own universal savings accounts and had success with that. So we're going to do a lunch and learn there, and then I'm going to drive them back. So it's a 12-hour day with more driving than actual meeting, but a big exciting opportunity to actually see face to face some people that we've seen on Zoom. And I think there'll be some good back and forth on that. And I'm wrapping up my community needs assessment. I just wrote a narrative for that. And what I noticed came up in many of the community partnerships as a real need is housing, affordable housing, lack of housing stock, lack of proper housing stock, lack of the right size or the safe housing for elderly folks and for young families and for people who are struggling to meet all of their financial needs. So I will be serving on the Housing Action Team again. We're going to get going again in the spring, and they are looking for new leadership. I was on that for quite a few years, so I'm going to volunteer to step up and take a leadership role there because it does fit well with what the community needs are for many of our families in Dunn County. And then I'm also joining a statewide early childhood education team, and we'll be focusing on childcare educators and helping them learn some of the same thing that we want to teach our parents so that we can have that ripple effect of when the parents and the child care centers are sort of speaking the same language and practicing some of the things that we know work with little kids. So that's also something that is new and not exactly clear what our mission is, but we're kind of hammering that out right now. But a lot of great colleagues and people with a lot more experience than I have that I'm hoping to learn from on that team. Any questions?
Questions for Lisa? Okay, then we'll move on to Addison, and maybe just introduce yourself again and let people know who you are now and what you're doing.
All right, I am Addison Vang. I am the community development educator for Dunn County, and then I also cover Eau Claire and Chippewa counties as well. So my focus is in community food systems. So a lot of what I do is around the food system. Coming up this weekend, we have, so a lot of what I've been doing actually is from grants that we had received, and last time I think I presented it, we had just kind of received it, so we hadn't really done anything, but now we're in the process of really, putting on workshops, or actually like moving forward and utilizing and working together and really trying to figure out, our plan for the next 2-3 years. So this first program we have for this weekend, January 14th, is called, we're calling it the BIPOC Small Farmers, supporting BIPOC small farmers in Western Wisconsin. And that is part of a USDA specialty crop block grant that we have received, and that's I believe that's over 2 years. And that's exciting because there's a lot of different partners that's involved in this. So there's the Farmers Union, DACAP, the Hmong Association. We had the Black and Brown, um, uh, Black and Brown Power, Women Power, and then there's also a local producer that's a part of this grant as well. So that's really exciting. And the producer, I think he's out of around like the Elk Mound area. And so for this first workshop, it's a hand washing station, and the participants will be able to come and build a wash station, and they can take that home with them. There'll be just information on the purpose and the importance of having a wash station. And as a part of this program too, there is going to be a presentation on a new program that just started, called the Local Food Procurement Assistant Program, which is there's a couple different organizations that is a part of that. But Farmers Union will be presenting on it, and they'll just be telling us about like how, the purpose of the program. I don't know too much about the program. It's very new, but the basis of the program is that it's gonna be a way to support small farmers by aggregating produce. So they have some funding so they can provide, some kind of a payment to these farmers to support them in their operations and their business. So we'll learn a little bit more about that. And I'm excited about that because I just found out about that, and I trying to learn more about how that's going to support this area. And we have 2 organizations that's involved with this specific program that's fairly local. One is Marble Seed, and they're out of Spring Valley, and then the Farmers Union, is out of Chippewa Falls. So we're kind of situated in an area that's kind of pretty unique for this program, in that, we have all these technical support really close by. Another project that I was on was a part of a statewide project exploring capacity to support Hmong farmers in Wisconsin. So this was a Chippewa Valley project to just pretty much bring Hmong farmers from the 3 counties together and just find out, what their needs are, how we can kind of support them. And even though this is a statewide project, this really supported this area just because, all the farmers that came were from this area, and they all sell or produce across the 3 counties as well. So it's really hard to say one is in one area when they're kind of working across all 3 counties. Some other things that I'm working on is a web series on supporting food ag businesses. And that's going to start next month. So it's over, I think, about 3 months. So we're going to be posting webinars, and these are short, 10-15 minute webinars, really just one-on-one on various topics, financing, mentorship. So once those are more developed, I'll let you guys know. And then other than that, like right now we're starting up kind of looking at doing another grant 101 workshop. So I've been a part of this statewide group where we've been providing grant writing for across, I think we cover about 12 counties together. And we've had a lot of interest, so we've been continually doing it. We've actually expanded to doing two of these workshops a year because of the interest. So that's my report. Yeah. Do you want me to just go right on to the presentation?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the presentation, I don't have too much, but in my the last time I was here, you requested to kind of bring back some information on extension and, our commitment to broadband. We had just hired someone, and so I didn't know too much about the role this person was going to play. And so I looked into it. And so this is kind of what I have. So Extension does have a commitment to broadband, and there's a lot of stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. And one of those is the hiring of Chris Stark. And Chris Stark, he's not new to Extension. He's been a part of Extension for a long time. I'm not sure how long. Kristen might know a little bit more how long, but his time as an educator, he's always kind of been doing broadband as like on the side. And so he was officially, I believe he started officially in July, and his official title is Digital Equity Outreach Specialist. So originally I thought he might have been like a manager, but he's a specialist, so he works across the entire state. And much like his title, from talking with them, really his purpose is, establishing programs to help, people across the state to get connected to broadband, finding affordable broadband, places on how to kind of teach digital literacy skills. And as a part of that too, it is kind of helping counties, organizations kind of develop a strategy on how do you move forward with creating some kind of committee. So he has talked a lot about a makeup of a committee, of a advisory board, and that was something that we talked about a lot of. And so one of the other questions was asked was like kind of like a possible approach of CRNT and broadband. And so me and Chris, we did talk about that. And so there's a lot of different approaches to broadband. It really depends on what the county how they want to approach it. We could stay as is and just be a part of CRNT and have discussions here. But ideally, having some kind of advisory committee, where they can discuss whether that's internally or including outside stakeholders, and then you can discuss everything and then kind of bring that back and report that back to CRNT. From discussions, it seems like ideally, like it would be good to have outside stakeholders involved, so we can hear a much broader perspective on what is going on, the needs of the county, and just kind of really having more resources, people with different approaches to broadband. So that's kind of our preferred, from talking with Chris, like as kind of a way of really understanding holistically what is going on in the county. So with Chris Stark, he did mention that if we would like, he can come and talk a little bit more about his role, some of his experience, because like I was saying, he has been involved in other broadband capacity. And one of those is, kind of developing these committees and the makeup of it and best approaches. So that's kind of my report, like the broadband option. I think with the options, especially if you want to look at an outside model, like a advisory committee, we could definitely look into Eau Claire as well, because they have a model that we can probably tap into and talk and have someone.
Do they
from-
have an outside committee like that, or?
They have a outside committee, and so we can ask them, and I don't know who exactly would be the person that would come.
Okay.
But there is a model here where we can probably talk to and ask kind of
But it sounds
how.
like Chris probably has a better handle on a good way to maybe organize that if he's organized.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the organizing and everything. I think Chris would be good at just kind of giving us, hit from his experience
Mhm.
from working with other counties. But Eau Claire, I think would be good with just kind of like, getting some examples of kind of an actual government, that's using that model, and the pros
Sure.
and cons as well. But yeah, he's very knowledgeable. Like I was saying, he's been doing this a long time. And so a lot of the questions I think he could probably answer. But I think from talking with them, these are kind of like the three options. But preferably, I think having some sort of outside presence would be beneficial, whether that's just being part of the CRNT or a separate advisory board. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm not sure exactly what the committee wants, but if you want, maybe for the next meeting or one of the future meetings, we could probably try to see if Chris could come in,
Yeah.
provide some kind of a presentation.
Even if he could do a call,
Or Zoom.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think that would be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the most important thing to me is he's talking about two things. One is how we develop a strategy for connecting people, especially low income people, with internet access. But the thing the committee's been frustrated by for so long is how do we connect the county to the broadband expansion that's happening? That's with the providers. And I don't, so those are the two things I think we want to talk about, but especially the second one, because we're not gonna make progress until we have figured out how we're gonna make progress, I guess.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and it might be worthy to have some sort of, if it's not like a subcommittee, and I'm thinking like almost the model of like a library board where it's
right,
county board representatives, but I think it's really valuable having like industry representatives,
Yes.
like all of the ISPs that serve the county, some, large employers that it would benefit, even, realtor representatives, because that's a big selling or non-selling factor, is whether a property has internet access of some sort, or whether it's on the horizon or not. Some people have difficulty selling a house when it's like there's no internet there and no hope that it's going to get it anytime soon.
I mean, and to me, the key thing is we don't have, as far as we know, there is no conversation among the ISPs even in Dunn County about what
I
they're
don't
gonna
think so,
do.
no.
So whether they be willing to participate in something, we should find that out.
Right.
And we need to know what's going on, what are they doing, what's going on, what their plans are, and how can we help? essentially. And I think all those stakeholders could be present. I think we want to learn about how effective is it for those people to be at the table. Are they interested in being at the table?
Well, and that's a good,
This time is precious.
well, and that's a good question for Chris too, is like
Yes.
when in some of these committees that he's organized, have they involved stakeholders like local ISPs and my impression is that the cooperative ones are far more cooperative with one another, as opposed to some of the corporate ones don't play
Right.
play nice.
Right.
May I?
You may.
Right. So on the 27th, on a fluke, because some random vendor sent it to me, but I thought, well, I'll go. I'm going to attend the Wisconsin Internet Service Provider Association's Midwest Broadband Summit.
Oh,
So hopefully I will learn something and talk to some of those providers and try to
Yeah.
sort of see what.
where is that?
Milwaukee.
Oh. Yeah,
So Jim, you're okay with Addison trying to get Chris to come?
definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and we'll coordinate something.
Yeah.
And then I'll work with you on kind of,
Yeah, the timing, essentially, we usually put together the agenda for the meeting a week out. So it could be basically up to a week beforehand that we would like announce that would be part of the agenda. So whether it be this, February meeting or March, would be good, and especially on the tail of the FCC map thing that I think closes Thursday, if I recall correctly. It's like this week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for those that aren't aware of the FCC challenge thing, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to communications, but anybody else have any comments or questions for Addison?
If I could, I'm curious, because I know when I was here 5.5 or so years ago, there was some engagement with broadband. We were pretty heavily involved in that. Has that disbanded or not continued?
Well, Addison, a lot of the people that were involved with that aren't here anymore or are here now in another capacity.
Okay.
yeah, I believe, from talking with some of the other folks, when I left, it was just put on halt. I believe we still have a website for the broadband, but and you can actually go in and take like the survey and everything still, but there's no one that's actually managing
Managing
it
it.
or anything.
And it's still a county board priority?
Yeah, it's county board. It's also one of our legislative agenda items that we lobby the legislature about every year.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Very good.
And so if I can, so it's at this time when the next few years are going to be a windfall for funding of expansion. We're not set up to really have a real partnership role with our ISPs, and it feels like that's something we got to correct fairly quickly. Not that it has to change overnight or anything, but we don't like, we did get put in the budget a authorization for a certain amount of funding for the last round of applications that went in. But now there's going to be another round that's going in pretty soon, I think.
yeah,
In February, I think. And we have some money set aside for that. So it's kind of a high priority, I think, for the committee to get a handle on what's going on and how can we help.
and it ties into a lot of what this committee does as well, because it's definitely part of a community resource. It's also part of economic development and a huge part of economic development, whether or not there's good broadband access and coverage. So, and I was going to play off something else you said, Tom, and now I can't remember what it was because it went.
That never happens to me.
Yeah. Nope. So, yeah, shoot, it was profound too, whatever it was I was gonna say. I mean, absolutely profound. Okay, anybody have anything else for Addison? If not, thank you. Thank you, extension, people and staff. And we're gonna move on. And I had hoped that we were gonna be unveiling our new Visit Dunn County website. Dave, our web developer that's working on it, was down for about a week and a half with COVID. And then death in the family and the holidays. So looks like it'll be by next month. And but he's actually been working with a team and they've been pretty much gathering some good content and should be able to roll it out with at least enough stuff out there so that it's going to be a site that people can start using. And then once they start using it, they'll go, oh, can we add this and add more stuff? So that'll be encouraging. Anybody have any questions about that at all? If not, we're gonna move on to Dunn County Communications, and I'll maybe get an update from Chris, since you've been working with Doug Mell, our communications person. And I will, as she's handing those out, one thing, and I don't know if this is in relation to there was a nice press release about the FCC broadband survey, and I saw that it got some good play, which was great. And I ended up sharing it and pointing it out to people on various Facebook pages as well. So and didn't get any snarky comments on it, which was good. And hopefully then people have been taking advantage of that, which is also, it's really important for Dunn County when the next grants and everything come in, that the map is as accurate as possible. And it probably still didn't get enough publicity that it could, but I think that it definitely helped. So, and obviously Doug was a part of that because I saw his name all over the press release.
He was. So we have a fully executed agreement with him for this year for 10 hours a month of his time. He and I and Dan Dunbar and Krista Vind are meeting monthly on the first Wednesday of the month to kind of plan for what are the things in that coming month that are.
Could you include me in on that invite? Because I would
Oh.
like to actually attend that
I
as part
will
of this committee.
definitely add you. I'm sorry that I did not do that. Easily done. So Krista and I continue to work on monthly county manager videos. Dan and Krista are both working on kind of communication pieces around topics of public interest. Like kind of budgeting project process. Krista's working on a great one about how to get involved in local government. Like when are the meetings and how do you go and when can you speak and all of those sorts of things. Doug put out a press release the first week of January regarding broadband and the FCC map, and it was picked up by a number of local outlets, including the Leader Telegram and La Crosse Tribune, WEAU, lots of social media. So, and I actually got a call from a gentleman from Boyceville who said he was calling because his internet service is so bad he couldn't do the survey.
Oh, no.
So actually, no, he actually saw it on I believe he said WQOW. So
Yeah.
that would have been another one. So yeah, so he had connected my name and he called it. He actually wasn't angry, but he was just like, it's bad and could use some help. So so that actually allowed me, I said, well, let me go in and do it for you. So that actually allowed me to go in, and it was a fairly straightforward process. Once I'd looked up my own address, but I didn't know what happened after that. And you just clicked a challenge button to challenge whether you had internet.
Was his accurate or not?
It was accurate. He has crappy internet service.
And it actually reflected that on that
It did.
original.
Well, you'd have to know that. I mean, you have to
Yes.
know that,
Yeah.
but, they're all satellite providers
Mhm.
and very low,
Yeah.
very slow connections. Yeah, between, out of town, just south of Boyceville. Yeah. So we are also working on, communications for January. Doug's working currently. We're gonna wait till after executive committee tomorrow to put out a press release on participation in the county board meeting related to the Lake District.
Nice.
So it's changed 3 times today, so we're gonna go change it again. But, so that press release is actually written. We just have to decide what the final, based on the direction from the executive committee, based on decide kind of what the final term language will be. He is working with Dustin Bender on, putting together a press release related to the, County B project delay. And, kind of the why, because that gets a lot of chatter around how bad County B is. And then, also looking at doing some promotion stuff for the Dunn County Housing Forums, which are at the end of this month and beginning of February. So lastly, whether now or in the future, is kind of as a regular item for you to say, are there other things or areas that you'd like us to focus on? Because he's a seasoned professional and he can pop these things out pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's quick. That was one of the big pluses. It was like, it doesn't sound like a lot of hours, but he's like, he can pretty much write the stuff while he's kind
Absolutely.
of sleeping.
Especially when
so.
you get him, I give him a little bit of background information and then he just
Yep.
goes. So,
And that shows you the benefit of that right off the bat, that news organizations just love it when they don't have to do a whole lot of work as far as a story like that, because they have short staff too. And if it's pretty much written as something that they can, plop into a piece and just use as is, that's wonderful. So, and yeah.
and it also, I think the other obvious benefit is, on any given day, I don't have time to do that in the same way that when it's his sole focus, like he just takes the information, compiles it, and out the door it goes. He'll turn around something in a couple of hours, where between the hit and miss of all the things that happen in a day, it might take me 3 days, so it's can be pretty nimbly responsive to what our needs are.
Yep. And he knows how to write it in a way that news organizations will go, okay, I'm going to pick this up. This is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a good idea you had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Glad it actually happened. And the other thing, I just realized, the other thought that kind of flew out of my head that was related to the what Addison said, was something that Terry Nichols actually brought up as a comment, was that there is no single person that anybody can talk to as far as to find out broadband issues. So this committee that potentially could get organized, could potentially that chair of that committee or group or board or whatever it might happen to be, could be that that contact that businesses or anybody else that has broadband questions or concerns someone could go to. And that was the idea that I'd forgotten about. Any other comments or questions about communications for Chris?
I just want to hop in and say that, just in general, I was so impressed with all the buzz that there's been around this broadband map. I was just floored when I saw the WEAU story about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's working, it's working. But anyway, I shared the Dunn County, Wisconsin post on my own Facebook page, and there was a little bit of a buzz there too. And I got in touch with an acquaintance who lives downtown Menominee, like just across the street from West Wisconsin Telecom, and she's still on copper. And
Wow.
so, and she couldn't figure out the form, and I said, okay, I'll try to submit a challenge for you. So I looked it up on the map, and the map says that she's got, fiber, and that she's got cable, and she doesn't have either of these things. So I submitted a challenge on her behalf, and it was confusing when I got to the challenge part. I filled out all the boxes and whatever, and it wouldn't let me submit. And I'm like, what is going on? And, and so like, I mean, I'm not ancient, right? I kind of know the way around computers, and I couldn't figure it out. It took me it wasn't forever, but it was difficult. So anyway.
Don't feel bad. My daughter, who's 32 and very tech savvy, said that it made her so mad she stopped trying to do it. She just gave up.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
I was
so
about
she
ready
would have
to.
answered it. And I saw that picked up on Facebook by lots of local residents and shared out. So I shared it out, and I couldn't help people do it because I'm not that great, but I went to my laptop and I was able to do it. I couldn't do it on my phone.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me he had some difficulty with it too, but he was a drunk at a bar, so it could have been a lot of other difficulties there at the same time. I did tell him if he stopped drinking, he'd probably have no trouble with the form, but that was it. Any other comments or questions for Chris and communications?
I am sure you're aware, you would think about this, but at some point in February.
Oh, you lost your mic somewhere.
You keep.
I turned it off. Okay, something about the Red Cedar Conference, registering for it.
Good plan. Okay. Moving on to number 7, consideration of actions to be taken by this committee. There are none this month. And any announcements from anybody? If not, our next meeting is Tuesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. No better way to spend Valentine's Day than
Absolutely.
a meeting of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee. It is very convenient.
This is the most loving committee.
It is a very loving committee. It is. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.